Okay, after understanding the economic problem, which is your chapter one, let's understand factors of production much more in detail. So, factors of production, we have four factors of production, namely land, labor, capital, and enterprise. This chapter, we're going to understand what is the mobility of factors of production, as you see here. I will also highlight it for you. Mobility of factors of production. We're going to understand the quantity and quality of factors of production and what are the payments of factors of production. So this is the flow of the chapter. Starting off with the mobility. Mobility can be classified to two, which is occupational mobility and geographical mobility. So your occupational mobility is the capability of your factor of production to change use. So, for example, if it is, say, a vehicle, if that vehicle was like a delivery van and now it can be converted into like an ambulance, that's occupational mobility, which is it is capable of changing use. Geographical mobility, as the word says, is the capability of changing location. Okay, so we're going to see for each of them. So we start with labor, not with land. We start with labor. We go with land, then capital and enterprise, and we understand how is the occupational mobility and geographical mobility for all four of them. Okay, so diving straight in for labor. So occupationally, yeah, I'll keep it like this. So for labor, there's occupational immobility, mainly because there's lack of appropriate skills and qualification. So for example, someone who is a physiotherapist may not be able to say teach economics, maybe because they're not qualified to teach economics. So that's lack of appropriate skills and qualifications, which leads to occupational immobility. Geographical immobility, it depends. There could be immobility or there could be mobility. Immobility mainly depends on these four factors that I mentioned. So these four factors. Okay, so what are these? So I wouldn't maybe want to move to another city because of the difference in the price of housing and other utility items that are there. Or differences in educational systems, which is if I've taken a degree which is in India, that might not be a valid degree for me when I go to some other country. Or family ties, which is I'd like to stay back because of my family, so I'd like to stay in India itself. Or restrictions in movement of the workers because of visa issues and the various documentation which are there. So these are the four factors which causes geographical immobility for labor. Okay, moving forward, land is mostly occupationally mobile, which is you could put it to several uses. So for example, if it is so land, again guys, remember it's a natural resources, it's not your land meaning like the physical land. Okay, so occupational mobility is mostly there. So for example, trees could be used to make tables, could be used to make paper. Okay, so more so we mostly see that the same land could be put to several uses. Okay, now coming to the right side, so left side is going to be a occupational mobility and right side is going to be a geographical mobility. So coming to the right side, which is geographical mobility, your traditional land is geographically immobile, obviously, because I cannot really transfer a piece of land from one city to another. That's not possible. But some forms can be moved, like for example, something like coal, I could really move it from one city to another. So there is to some extent geographical mobility. Obviously, a coal mine is something which I cannot really move, but coal per se, once extracted, I can move. Okay. Next, capital. So capital mobility depends on the type of capital good that we're talking about. So both your occupational mobility and your geographical mobility will depend on the kind of capital good that we're talking about. So for example, the delivery van example that I gave you at the start, that if it's a van which is used for delivery services, it can be very well maybe converted to an ambulance. Okay, so there in that case there is occupational mobility. But if there's a machine which is used to produce clothing apparels, cannot really be the same machines cannot really actually make a car. Okay, so there is occupational immobility in that case. And geographically also, I could maybe transport say a vehicle from one location to another, but those heavy load machines I might not be able to do it. Obviously if it's dismantled and if it's in different parts, I can still. So, mobility of capital overall, both occupational and geographical, depends on the type of capital good that we're talking about. Okay. Lastly, we come to enterprise. Enterprise is the most mobile factor of production. Okay, both occupationally and geographically. So, occupationally, we see that, and obviously, enterprise, the mobility of enterprise depends on the mobility of entrepreneurs. So, speaking first on the left side about the occupational mobility, the say skills of an entrepreneur can be applied to every industry. So as an entrepreneur, if they've grown a great FMCG brand, they could very well possibly get into also software development or say tech sort of stuff. Okay, so they could very well apply those skills of managing the factors of production and taking risks to every industry that they fall into. Now, honestly, this is too broad to say because it's not always that all entrepreneurs can be geographically, can be occupationally mobile. But in just this regards, that just the skill ideas can be applied to every industry that they're in. Okay. Next is geographical mobility, which is it talks about how if they're successful in one country, they can be successful in another country as well. So that is when, to some extent, we can say they have geographical mobility as well. So with this, we're done with the factors of production section of talking about your occupational mobility and geographical mobility. There's a part where we talk about the payment of factors of production. Okay, so when I talk about the payment of factors of production, for land, labor, capital, and for enterprise. So for land, the payment is rent. Okay, for labor, the payment is wages. For capital, it is interest. And for enterprise, it is profit. Okay. Now we have one more part, which is quantity and quality of factors of production. I will just cover it in a minute. Okay, so covering the quantity and quality part, that section's not in the notes, so I'm just going to refer to the textbook to kind of take you guys through it. So when I speak about the quantity and quality of factors of production, speaking of quantity of land, so the amount of physical land per se does not really change a lot with time. Obviously, there could be soil erosion, etc. that could happen, but the quantity per se remains more or less the same. However, the quality can be increased with fertilizers and with the right amount of fertilizers. So like that is for the agricultural land. The same with the purity of rivers. Like if you stop pollution, the rivers could be much more cleaner. The health of the fishes could be much better, and so on and so forth. So that's how the quality of land can be improved. The quantity of labor depends on two things. One is a number of workers, as you see, and the second is number of hours. So the number of available workers depends on the size of the population, the age structure of the population. Like India has a very young population. The average age is pretty young. The retirement age, which is obviously the higher the retirement age, the more potential workers will be there. The school leaving age, which is if you raise the school leaving age, it'll reduce the number of people who will actually get into the workforce. And the attitude to working women. If there are countries which are much more acceptable for women to work, they obviously will have greater quantity of labor available. And the number of hours which people work. So what's the length of average working day? Oopsies, it's getting cut. Yeah. or whether people are working full-time or part-time, or what's the duration of overtime, if at all, what are the length of holidays that people are taking, and what's the amount of time lost because of sickness and because of illness. So these two aspects, which is number of workers and number of hours, they determine the quantity of labor. Okay, moving forward, the quality of labor obviously can be improved with better education, training, more experience, better healthcare, a very good working environment. All of this can improve the quality of labor. Okay, moving on to the next, which is the quantity of capital can be improved or can be increased with more and more of investments. Okay, there's one thing that we understand here is what's net investments. So net investments is nothing but your gross investments minus your depreciation. This is something which I've barely seen come in exams, but just because it's a part of the textbook, I'll just take you guys through it. So gross investments is your total spending on the capital goods. Depreciation is just you accounting for the wear and tear of the capital good because they become obsolete or because of the usage. And like I said, because of the wear and tear, this is like depreciation amounts for it. So net investment is whatever your gross investment is, which is your total spendings minus considering the wear and tear. Okay, so that's quantity of capital. Next is quality of capital can be improved with advancements in technology. You see here automation in car manufacturing improving the quality of capital. Okay, next is quantity of enterprise can be improved with more university degree courses and more courses in economics and business studies, two subjects which I teach. And quality of enterprise can be improved by better education with better training, better healthcare, and more experience, very similar to what we saw in the quality of labor aspect. Okay, with this, we actually end this chapter. Okay, so we'll just go through MCQs. I've just opened it. Which factors of production's function is to make decisions and take risks? We saw that there are two functions of enterprise, to make decisions and take risks. Which type of factor of production is a road? Road is a man-made resource, so thereby it's a capital. A country produces 3,000 new capital goods in a week. So this is your gross investment, and 500 of these replace worn out capital goods, which is your depreciation. So thereby it's nothing but 3,000 minus 500, which is your 2,500. And which of the factor of production is most mobile? It's your enterprise. Okay. In one of the series, I'll also explain you guys of how to really answer your paper 2 kind of questions. So subscribe for getting all those videos.